almost feels like, based on your discussing the interconnection between the JFK assassination and the UFO phenomenon, that there are sort of reality managers, like maybe even like above humanity
Yeah.
that can like choreograph or pull the strings on
Well,
things. And that does have to do with the occult. Like I think of, the Borderland Society, this
right.
sort of occult research group, like in the
Yep.
40s, they were aware of certain UFO crashes before the government
Yep.
was. And there's documentation of that.
Yep.
You have stuff with James Jesus Angleton and Hugh Angleton being involved in the Knights of Malta and certain secret societies. And then obviously a lot of the early CIA was sort of skull and bones. And so you
Sure.
wonder, is there some hermetic substructure? Like we think of, the government, disclosure, like the president knows everything. But like, is there some sort of choreography going on behind the scenes that most humans aren't aware of? Maybe a few are?
Well, the whole point of Sinister Forces was that there are sinister forces,
Yeah.
right? But these sinister forces are such that this is the thing. Is there an occult concept here? Obviously, I think I've shown through documentation the connection with the UFO phenomenon and the Kennedy assassination as an example. These are documented individuals that
Yeah.
had documented histories, right? So that we know. And the churches, that's again documented, right? So all of this is there. But does that mean there's a cabal of high-ranking Freemasons or something pulling the strings? No, because that's too public again, right?
Yeah.
That's not how this works. There is a mechanism
Yeah.
whereby these things happen, right? Whereby a mystic, a Belgian mystic, at the turn of the century in Europe could predict Kennedy's assassination. Maeterlinck, Maurice Maeterlinck, Belgian mystic.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a mystic. He was an astrologer. He was a mystic. He also won the Nobel Prize for Literature. And he wrote The Bluebird, which they made into various versions. And if we get into Bluebird, that's pulling on a whole bunch of threads that we really don't have time
Well,
for.
Operation Bluebird was pre-MK Ultra.
Yes, it was. It was the first MK Ultra.
Was it named after Maeterlinck?
This is the point I'm coming to make.
Okay.
Because the same guy who wrote that wrote a play called The Cloud That Lifted. And The Cloud That Lifted is about the assassination of a political leader where shots were fired from a grassy knoll. We don't know how many shots were fired. There's a discrepancy. And the guy who fired the shots might have worked for Russia, according to the plot of the play.
It's Lee Harvey Oswald.
And his name was Alec, which was Lee Harvey Oswald's name in Minsk. And he lived there. So if there's somebody pulling the strings, is it a somebody the way we think of a somebody? Or is it a mechanism of some kind, as Vallée called it, a control mechanism?
Yeah.
Right?
Let me use that as a way to come back to the question of simulation, because whatever's running this thing that we're in, it's not some board of, some archon sitting at a boardroom table. Okay. It's being run, there may be entities of some kinds, but it's being run essentially by an artificial intelligence. If we're inside a quantum computational system, that is being at least managed by some super AI, which already exists. I mean, it pre-exists us.
Like they were just talking about in those clips, that's what's happening. And I actually know this from firsthand experience, and it can manifest in many different ways for a lot of different people, I'm sure. and I've seen it in quite a few different ways, but I kept going back to this place. Well, okay, what they're talking about is happening all the time, okay? Now, if you're perceptive enough and if you're tuned into things on a certain level, whether you want to call it alternate states or higher dimensions or whatever, you can get to a certain place where it's a lot easier to see all of this happening, however it's manifesting for you. And I did this one time pretty intensely for a good stretch, and then it was a lot, but it got me so curious. I kept going back to this space intentionally over and over and over throughout the years. And I want to show you some clips from Simpsons that kind of leads into that, and then I'll bring it all in.
In the first episode of Season 8, Homer becomes an inventor and is surprisingly good at math. The show is known for hiding equations and ideas within the scripts, but at one point on a blackboard is a seemingly random equation. Now looking back, physicists say that this writing is actually a remarkably close description of the mass of a Higgs boson, and only works out to be a fraction larger than the true measurement that was made in the super collider at CERN. For The Simpsons to have got there 15 years earlier seems almost impossible to believe. Number 8. Nobel Prize winner. Season 22, Episode 1. The writers of The Simpsons have always had a close affinity to science, but this prediction shows just how on the pulse they actually are. When Season 22 premiered in 2010, Martin, Lisa, Milhouse, and a database make a betting pool for who they think will win the Nobel Prizes in each category that year. All of these are real people who are active in their respective fields, but incredibly in 2016, one of them did actually win. Bengt Holmstrom from MIT was a joint winner of the Economics Prize, thanks to his work on contract theory and ideas of how to determine what should be government-owned and what should be controlled by private interests. The season was the one where Bart captures a fish in the pond near the nuclear power plant. Named Blinky, this fish had 3 eyes and led to the citizens of Springfield leading protests about the pollution being released into the environment. Luckily, mutations like this are extremely rare, but not unheard of. In 2011, a fisherman in Cordoba, Argentina, caught his very own Blinky from a reservoir near a nuclear power plant. It was a species of wolffish, and at first, he and his friends didn't notice because it was too...
Simpsons, I guess, is just the best example of this, but even after those clips, like some of those screenshots and things I was showing of like Neo's passport and Dean Koontz predicting the virus, there's actually like a lot of weird things like this that pop up that are like very uncanny. And Simpsons, I guess, just has the best track record for it. And there's so many others. I mean, it would be a long video just trying to go through all of them. So, as far as I see it, a lot of these people that are writing and like making these things, like take that example of the math equation on the board. So these people are trying to just write a story for a show and make some art. And what they probably don't even realize that what is happening at the same time, this intelligence that is kind of operating in this unseen space most of the time, it's actually subtly influencing people to make certain choices and guide them in certain ways. So they actually end up writing something with a math equation that's barely a fraction off of the real exact thing that is the shit that works. it just keeps happening over and over, right? So, and it's a big thing with like any type of entertainment. They know it's going to get pushed out to a bunch of people that are going to watch it. And so with this intelligence guiding how it comes out into the world, it gets created, and then a bunch of people watch it, perceive it, and then they, even subconsciously, bring that in to their whole reality, and then it manifests itself if enough people are consuming it. That's why it starts out as just a silly thing, and then it keeps accurately predicting the future because it's actually creating it through your perception and through how reality actually is constructed. Cool. Bye.